On the vast plain of the Iktamir Valley, herders gather for an age-old rite, until now banned by recent history. Mongolia, last refuge of the nomad, a land where the human spirit still has room to roam free. With no food or water, Nara and his friends have ridden almost 200 kilometres for an event not held here in decades. Like many Mongolians, they live a life largely unchanged since their ancestors ruled the known world. But these conquerors of history are also today its victims. After 70 years of Soviet subsidy, Mongolia is struggling to find its place in the new free market world. And when winter comes, Mongolians, like their country, are finding themselves on their own. On a late spring afternoon, Byamba Tsedin herds his animals in from the wide Mongolian steppe. A proud horseman and true nomad, Byamba moves his animals 5 times a year in search of the best grazing. It's in these gentle, warmer months he fattens his 300 sheep and goats to help them survive the coming winter. Every day, Byamba's wife and children share the burden of milking the herd. No matter how young, they all help. They have to. Out here on the steppe, there's no electricity or shops. These animals supply everything they need. Some money from the cashmere, milk products and skins. It's a tough life that would test many. But after 2 years of drought, this year is tougher than most. A drought makes it hard for any herder, but here in Mongolia it can be critical. If the animals can't fatten up now, the steppe's freezing winter can be fatal, not just for the herds, but the people who live off them. But this was no ordinary winter. When the chill Siberian winds swept down across the steppe, they brought with them a freezing death across much of Mongolia's prime grazing land. It's called a zud, a deadly combination of drought followed by -50-degree temperatures, deep snow and 100-kilometre-an-hour blizzards. Two million animals perished in the zud, 10% of Mongolia's entire stock. It might not sound that bad, but they were supporting half the nation's herders on some of the best land.
If you can imagine having your transportation disappearing, your savings disappearing, and your form of income, your food source, everything disappearing. This is what's happened in the winter emergency of 99-2000.
10 years ago, Mongolia's 30 million sheep and goats were owned by the state and, like other public assets, managed in collectives. Privatisation has returned them to individual owners. For some, that's been a ticket to large herds and relative wealth. But the Zud was a chilling reminder that free market profits are yet to replace the safety net of old Soviet subsidies.
Үздэг харж үздэг байсан. Одоо зах зээл гэж гараагүй байхад 100 болоод л ер нь аюултай цас орд зуд болж байсан. Тэгтэл бол нэгдэлтэй нийгэмтэй байхад л засгийн малч байсан тэжээл төхөрийг бол хангалттай болгодог байсан. Дээд газараас санч тушаадаг байсан байх, тушаал болгодог л байсан байх. Тэгэхээр одоо зах зээл гарснаас хойш л ер нь тэр бол ерөөсөн яг хонигдсан. Мөнгөтэй хүн л авдаг, мөнгөгүй хүн бол тэрийг авах эрхч барин байхгүй болсон.
And it's not just on the steppe. Mongolians are doing it tough. In the decades since throwing off Russia's communist yoke, Mongolia has rushed headlong down the road of free market reforms. Like every nation in transition, there have been some winners. But unbridled privatisation, corruption and political chaos has caught many Mongolians unprepared and ill-equipped.
There have been people that have benefited clearly, and you've seen the growth of a middle class and creature comforts and that sort of thing, but you've also seen the emergence of poverty. Prior to 1990, the word poverty did not exist in the Mongolian language. So it is considered a transition phenomena.
With little investment replacing Moscow's former largesse, many factories have closed. The city is now besieged by suburbs of the nomadic tent, the Gur, filled with refugees from the provinces, where post-Soviet privatisation is not just a phrase, but can be the difference between life and death.
Тэгээд үйлдвэр маань улсын үйлдвэр биш болоод тэгээд тэр компани ажилчтайгаа одоо шилж сонгож аваад хитгэн ажилчинтай ажиллаж байгаад одоо бүр ажиллахаа байсан.
Narensetseg came to the city when new owners axed her job at a provincial carpet factory. With a serious illness, a young baby and no relatives in the city, she embodied Mongolia's vulnerability to the harsh free market realities.
Тэгээ маш муу хөвтөд одоо сар гаруй эмнэлэгт хөвтөд эмчилгээгүйгээд гарсан. Тэгээд дотор эрэхтэн ходоодны хүнд өвчнөр хажууд нь уушиг нь хатгаа аваад тэгээ хүндэрсэн. Тэгээ бүр хөвтөрт орсон.
Close to death, Narensetseg brought her daughter Togserik here to what was then the only home for abandoned children. Seven years ago, Didi, an Australian kindergarten teacher, set up the Lotus House and has watched a society harden.
I've seen a more of a divide in the society. There has become sort of an elitist society, and there's a much bigger gap. When I was first here, the street kids were, older kids. I didn't notice many young kids in the street, but you'll see now the ages have dropped a lot. In the winter, it's very...
Among those in her care, a 4-year-old, Aranjana, abandoned on the streets of the city.
Actually, this little girl here, she was left in a gear for a few days, and her legs were frozen. She almost died from that. But she didn't walk till she was almost 3. She's 4 years, 4 and a half. She didn't walk till she was nearly 3 years.
These children are just a few of those being left behind, and the numbers are growing every day.
there's a challenge which is to move through the transition and carry out the reforms while minimizing the human impact of this, the difficulties of nutrition, of difficulties of not going to school, kids dropping out, while the economy moves to a new system, getting the banking system up and running, looking for alternative sources for income generation beyond pure livestock. This is the challenge that Mongolia is facing. It's on all fronts, economic, social, and environmental, is to move through the phases of the transition as quickly as possible and trying to minimize the difficulties that the citizens are facing along the way.
Reacting to the pain and corruption of the privatisation era, Mongolians sought the certainty of the old Soviet days. The result? Mongolians voted the former communists back into power with a resounding majority. And the new Prime Minister, old Communist Party numbers man Enkbaya Number, has promised to slow the pace of reform to find a middle way.
So we would like to privatize, yes, but to privatize and to make these big enterprises work in a more efficient way, so that they will pay more taxes, so that they will bring new technology, so that they will increase the jobs which are available to the people, so that they will make Mongolian economy export-oriented.
But Mongolians are trying to free themselves from much more than just economic dependence. After decades of savage Soviet suppression, they're trying to recover their very identity. The town of Tsetseleg, some 500 kilometres from the capital, is leading the way. With a passionate ode, the town is now paying tribute to its most famous son, Mongolia's first defence minister, Marshal Demid. A popular potential leader, the Marshal was just one of tens of thousands of Mongolians slaughtered by the Russians as Stalin extended his iron grip over Moscow's most easterly possession.
For Europeans, I can explain like this way, like Christ now, yeah? Christians know how he died, what torture he has now, yeah? Same feeling we have, because he was killed and his wife was shot. She was pregnant. Relatives also were shot. So we shouldn't forget it, just in the future.
Sergalan is one of Mongolia's few free market winners and poured some of his vodka company profits into paying for the statue. By drawing on the heroes and strengths of their past, Mongolians hope to build confidence in their future. But it's out here on the plains, where most Mongolians have to make a living, that future will be determined. And back at the Iktamir Valley, they've come together to celebrate life on the land. Moving their homes as easily as Genghis Khan's warriors, thousands of families have come together for a nadam, a festival. Here too, Sergalan's vodka profits are helping revive local culture. He's putting up the prize money for the main event, a gruelling 30-kilometre race across the steppe.
it's a big race. And the owners of the horse, they're learning lots. They're learning lots.
The riders, boys and girls of no more than 12 years old, ride bareback for more than an hour. Some get injured. There's even the occasional death. It's the sort of courage and endurance that could help pull Mongolia through the transition. But sadly, these skills of the world's last pastoral nomads are at risk from their own government's desire to modernise Mongolia by settling the nomads on farms.
I don't know in how many years, but inevitably Mongolians will turn and come to sedentary way of civilization when they will be settling down and having some intensified agriculture and animal husbandry. And the traditions will be maybe left in the songs and customs and other kind of everyday life.
But out on the steppe, those traditions are still reality. The nomads prefer the roaming life they can trust.
тэрийг бол одоо би нэг бодоод санаад байх чинь одоо тэр бэрмэр гэдгийг бол одоо би мэдчихгүй юм. Тэр тухайн хүний байдал нь мэдэх байна. Тэр өдөөний тэр малчин хүн 5 мал ондрогоод явна гэх юм уу, боли сууши гэх юм уу, тэрийг л тухайн хүн одоо мэдгээс нийтээр сууши дуусгая гэж.
Having carried it this far in history, Mongolia's nomadic spirit will fight hard to survive this difficult transition, and for many may still be the best chance of surviving the race for the modern world.